Tirupati Naidu, Sanjay Kumar Chauhan, very good morning to you all. Abhishek Raj, Suresh Chandra Dabral, after a long time. Vamsi Anna Pragada, Sai Kishore, good morning to you all. We'll start in 2 minutes.
Morning, sir.
Yeah, morning. Chittibabu, Karunakar, Satyapal. Today is very important topic as far as Satyavani team is concerned. You should all make notes of what I talk today. Jagdish should also join. Please inform him. Jagdish, Bhujangrao, Kashyap, Subramanyam, Iyengar. Hi Prashant, Bharat Somya. So please ask all our colleagues to join.
Okay, sir.
All design team, including architects if possible. Mainly, yeah, Prashant. Prashant, architect, should join. Prashant, Sridevi, Rao Garu, Veer Raghavan, Gautam Chaurasya, welcome you all. Subramaniam, yeah. Why don't you join in Zoom, Subramaniam? Okay, you be there. No problem. Subramaniam, ask our design team to join. So, we are starting. Share screen, yeah. Today is a long talk actually. The topic is very important for every consulting engineer or designer who is involved in projects. Most of the design engineers face a lot of embarrassment because of the lack of documentation of this design intent, design brief, and scales of accommodation. It's a very important topic. We should all understand. We have gone through all these experiences. That's why I'm trying to share that today. So I have about 340 slides I have to cover in 1 hour. So please be with me. And also I'll take all the questions towards the end of the topic. The overview is introduction. What is design intent and what is design brief? It's a central business district that we have done a case study and scales of accommodation. The government, you know, whether it is central government or Ministry of Defense or any department will have scales of accommodation document. It is called FRD, Functional Requirements Document, which every engineer should have access to and then plan according to these requirements so that there are no changes later. So the design intent is the intent of the owner or promoter or developer or implementing agency, what they want to develop. Even for builders, it is very important thing. It is all happening in a trial and error basis for developers who are developing so many projects. So for every project, there should be a design intent. That means, so for giving the design intent to the consultant, there should be a feasibility study before design intent is prepared. So whether that particular proposed development and proposed investment will yield the desired result. And design intent for consultants or engineer is what the developer is planning. I want to develop 25 acres. I want to develop in 4 phases. I want to develop mixed development. I want to develop as per the urban local body norms. I want to develop or take TDR. These are all the intent. I want to have high-end residential. I want to develop affordable housing. This is the intent of the developer. I want to go for high-rise construction. I want to go for independent villas, gated community. So this is how the developer or implementing agency has to decide. For example, government of Andhra Pradesh, in Amaravati, they wanted to build a 50-storied office building. That is the intent. They started with that thing. Whether it is feasible or not is a different story. But it is the intent. We have to ask the owner, developer, in implementing agency to define the intent of the project. So this is where it starts, and based on the design intent of the owner or FRD, functional requirements document, we have to make the design brief to the client as a consultant. So we'll draft, converting the intent into a design brief. We will be submitting that brief for the approval by the project implementing agency or the project managers. So this is the beginning of this topic. This is how, and the scales of accommodation is the eligibility of each officer. So for example, what is the scale of accommodation of a principal secretary in a state government? What is the scales of accommodation of a joint secretary? What is the scale of accommodation of a secretary in the central government? Now we are seeing central government also developing the secretariat. There are norms actually. So these norms have to be the basis for planning and design of any accommodation. For housing also, National Building Code gives the basic norms for affordable housing and what are the fire safety norms. So the design intent and design basis is not confined to civil engineering. But fortunately or unfortunately, it is the civil engineers who have to draft this design intent and design brief, because the investigation is done by us. And we have to do the feasibility studies and all that. So based on that, we will be preparing the design intent and design brief and take the approval of the client. So the design intent is, designer's intent may refer more specifically to the drawings and information prepared, but as I mentioned, it is the client who has to define the intent of the project actually. Sometimes a project manager will prepare the design intent in consultation with the owner or developer actually. So that also happens. So we do the parametric modeling in BIM and show it to the client whether this is what he's thinking or not. It all starts with the SketchUp software, you know, we'll show the how it looks and all, then it will be approved. And then design brief is prepared by the design consultant. So it is our job, mainly engineers prepare the design brief, and so the design brief will run into different sections like the planning and design, civil and structural, and then we have the MEP, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, air conditioning, firefighting. All these aspects will be documented, which I'll be sharing today. So we'll be giving the existing information such as business case, the statement of need and the strategic requirements, site survey, site information, site appraisal, already analysis of existing accommodation, workshops with the champions and the user panels to establish needs, expectations, input from the stakeholders, and a wider consultation process, interviews, user surveys, input from statutory authorities such as the fire brigade, statutory utilities, local authority, heritage conservation. All these aspects we will be conducting the survey. And project brief also should include the description of client's brand, culture and organization, description of client's vision, mission and objectives, description of client's priorities and the criteria that will be used to measure, and organization structure and decision-making process before we get on to the project. So changes to the client that the project will bring about, and interfaces with other projects, client policies that may be applicable to the project, like transport policy, energy policy, natural ventilation, etc., like the green building norms. This is another thing. GRIHA or ECBC, all these things. So client preferences, image, use of local materials, use of landscape, and quality expectations, including health and safety, sustainability, and design quality. So these are all the things, and a description of the principles that will be adopted in the development of the design. So this also we have to understand. And site information will collect with the building survey, site survey, and information about ground conditions like soil investigation, location and capacity of utilities, that is power, water, drainage, stormwater drainage, and all that, and access and other constraints, legislative constraints, existing planning consent. So these are all the requirements. And the spatial requirements, schedules of accommodation, areas and special requirement, schedules of users, including external users like visitors, and their numbers, department functions, organizational structure, and operational characteristics, spatial policies, and required adjustments, groupings, and separation, zoning of the development, circulation guidelines, and that means interconnectivities of the different buildings and departments, and phasing. The structural strategy, technical requirements, columns and grid lines, like structural system that we are going to adopt. And nowadays construction technology is very important. We have to discuss about the construction technology, comfort conditions and level of user control, acoustics requirement, equipment requirements, specialist requirements of furniture, finishes, fixtures and fittings, information and communication. ICT is nowadays every project will have the external connectivity and database and all that, and requirement of specialist process and plant, fire compartments. Bhaskar, can you mute the users entry and users in Zoom? I'm getting disturbed.
చేశాను సార్. అయింది సార్, మ్యూట్ అయింది.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. People come late and disturb me. Inka vastundi ento Bhaskar. I am still disturbed. See what is happening. Likelihood of future change, sustainability objectives and energy use targets, safety and security requirements. I am reading very fast, but each of this requires huge discussion. Pollution control, waste and water management, flexibility and future use, durability and lifespan, other performance requirements, benchmarking the information. These are all the important things. And we have to also think about the materials to be used. Component requirements, long lead items like transformers, chillers, elevators, they all have certain lead time depending on the project schedule. We have to identify these items and produce. And the cladding strategy and material selection procedures. So what type of cladding we want to use? Is it a stone? Is it a dressed stone? Or is it GRC? So many, or ACP, glass, glazing, all these things. And project planning requirements, outcome of any consultation process, budget, most important, finally. The budget, we will develop all the concept and give an estimate, and client says, sorry, I don't have so much budget. Then you have to go back. So first itself, you have to freeze what is the budget for the project. And program management, project program and key milestones for the project, known risks, targets for post-occupancy evaluation outcomes, and other performance targets. So the project brief will become increasingly detailed throughout the project brief and concept. So as we move the project, clients, many clients, if they don't have in-house design team or engineering team, it is very difficult to, first we have to educate the client about each of the requirements and then ask him whether he likes this or not. And a structural design brief sample, I don't know whether it will come or not. No, it is. We have a different thing. I'll show you the brief. On projects that adopt building information modeling, the employer's information requirements may be considered a parallel document to the project brief, whereas the project brief sets out the requirements of the physical built asset. The employer's information requirements define the information the employer needs to procure to enable them. So here I'll just show you some of the examples. Please don't use this information for anything. I'm just showing to educate people about how each design brief looks, you know. So here I have to include this, I think. Can you, this I have to share. Yeah, I have to share. No. Why we are not getting this? Bhaskar, how do we share the second file? The link opened.
సార్ మీరు ఆ ఎక్సెల్ షీట్స్ ఓపెన్ లో ఉన్నాయా?
Open on that.
దీనికి
Acha, I have to go to the share option and then do it
Yes.
in Zoom. New share, okay. New share is, where is this? Oh, yeah. No. Share. Okay, sorry. So now I think you will get it. Design intent. I have to go to the new share. Has it changed, Bhaskar?
సార్ మళ్ళీ ఇది స్టాప్ షేర్
Yeah, I got it. So this is the design intent, how it looks like, project description, project title, and site of the details of interiors and structural requirements, mechanical requirements, plumbing requirements, electrical requirements, phasing of interim facilities, survey, fire protection survey, physical security, telecommunication, technical security, and all that. So these are all described. I'll not go into this detail. My objective is to show how a design intent looks. This is the design intent of one of the projects. So now I'll stop this share and open the new one, Bhaskar? Yeah.
మళ్ళీ అది ప్రెజెంటేషన్.
Yeah. Where is, yeah. So next is the structural design brief. I'll just show you. This is a structural design brief of an industry. So here you can see this is the structural design brief, steel requirements and floor finishes, drainage, dumper information, stockpile, and dead loads, live loads, imposed, earthquake load, equipment loads, soil pressures, blast loads, and all. And so we consider all these loading requirements, and then we have to document it basically and take the approval of the client, so that there will not be any change later about the loading considerations and all that. So these are the wind loads and earthquake loads. They're all defined in the design brief. This is a structural design brief in which we even define the loading combinations, you know, the temperature and all loading conditions we will define. And then we'll go to the, oh, I have to again new share, okay. So I'll just open WAPI. So this is again structural design brief, new share. It will be asking new share.
సార్ ఒకసారి ప్రెజెంటేషన్ క్లోజ్ చేసి మళ్ళీ ఓపెన్ చేయండి సార్, స్టక్ అయ్యింది.
Okay. Now it will come. New share you are not getting. So let's not. So this is anyway. I'll continue my. Yeah, this has come. Okay. So this is the codal provisions, MBMA, particularly for pre-engineered building. I have selected different types of design briefs because many people require this pre-engineered buildings design brief, which we give the design brief to the vendor, and based on that, the vendor will be submitting. So we have to be better, spend more time on design intent and design brief all the engineers so that you will save time during execution of the project. Otherwise, there will be a lot of changes happening during execution, and engineers will be blamed, consultant will be blamed, contractor will be blamed. So we have to be very clear about defining all the requirements in the design intent and design brief. Like here you can see what is the deflection limits. You should define the before only, so that the consultant, the process people will also accept these deflection limits, so that there are no issues later. These are all as per the engineering requirements, but for the finishers and performance requirements, it may differ actually. So this is, we have to be very clearly defining these things, and welding requirements for the fabricators and all that. So I'll now get on to the main topic. I have shown you some examples, and we are running out of time actually. Okay. So telecommunications, technical security system survey, all that we have to do. This is the responsibility of the consultant. And then finally, furniture, building location and utility survey, all this we will be doing. And finally, I am sharing you one example of a central business district which we have done the master plan, and we have taken the requirements and we have defined the design requirements after discussions and consultations with the client. So CBD refers to the central business district, which is a very central portion, and we have designed a 50-acre central business district. And there are so many business districts being developed by the government of India. Gift City is one, and Dwarka is another. Delhi Mumbai Industrial Corridor. There are nodal points, and we have done this Aurangabad, Shendra Bidkin industrial city actually, and we designed the central business district. So we have taken the case study data of different central business districts of Hong Kong, Shenzhen, Sydney, Moscow, Navi Mumbai, Bandra Kurla complex, Chandigarh sector 17, and Vashi. These are all the examples that are taken, and we study this and brief the client about these CBDs, their character and their elements. And then in Moscow also you can see, and Bandra Kurla complex, we have studied how it is planned and how it developed and what is its present condition. And case examples of CBD, this is a Hyderabad GMR airport, and this is a CBD case examples of Singapore, and this is Beijing, and this is the Shanghai. And exhibition and convention centers we proposed. So we have done the case studies of Hyderabad Convention Center, High Tech City, and Bangalore BIEC, DMIC, Delhi, and GMR Hyderabad, and KLCC Malaysia, and Singapore Expo, Melbourne, Sydney. Like that, we do the case studies of all the existing convention centers and their performance and their occupancy levels before planning to consider. And even Odisha, we have studied Coimbatore, and this is the location study of that project which we are planning, Shendra Bidkin. So this is the location of the central business district, and we have studied this, and our 2 million population in Aurangabad is a landmark destination, and we give the CBD components identified, like what all we are planning in 50 acres, exhibition and convention center, office complex, center for skill development, hotels, service apartment, incubation center for industries, and car parking, iconic tower, and all that. So we have got the design intent from another consultant appointed by the client, and based on that we prepared this design brief. So office spaces and components and their scale. We have decided these scales by studying all the existing central business districts in different cities. And so it's a contiguous site of 50 acres, so proximity to existing. And so we did the SWOT analysis, and this is the contour of the site. which we have considered. So and this is a water body available. So by considering all these aspects, we have done the study, 8-meter level difference in the site of 50 acres, which is a nominal thing. And then we have defined the vision for the project, and this is the layout of the project. And for this project, different options are considered, and this is the how it looks, look and feel is shown to the client and taken the approval for that. And so this is the final master plan. After so many interactions and discussion, it is arrived at, considering the interconnectivities of various things and plot sizes. And so this is how it has grown. Scheme 6 is what was, and the pedestrian plaza aspects, how people will walk, and urban design aspects, the roads, and 60-meter roads, and entire commercial precinct is defined surroundings. So now we will come to our point, like mechanical services, design intent, air conditioning system. So these are all the various aspects of air conditioning, outdoor units, fan coil units, and AHUs. And basic consideration for estimation, we have shown server room heat loads and all codes and standards. We define VRV units and all that. And so pressurization system for the fire safety norms, and firefighting norms also are defined. So in this central business district, we are giving the design requirements for each of the units, the standards to be followed. At that time, it was National Building Code 2005, but it is now 2016 latest we have to use. And all the codes of practice for fire safety and fire alarm systems are defined. And firefighting system design, we will give the samples to be adopted, and fire sign, fire protection, fire alarm system. Again, the code is 2189. And passive fire protection, storage of water, internal firefighting system, methods of fire extinguishing, access control next. So we define the design intent for all the aspects, access control, safety, and this is the access control model, and design pattern collaboration. So these are all the advantages and building automation. Also, we define the norms, and then energy efficiency is the goal for all the operations, and energy efficiency implications, and electrical design intent and basis. These are the lighting levels, lux levels are defined, and general light quality is defined, ambient lighting, task lighting, day lighting, all are defined in this to arrive at the power requirement for the project. So this is the lighting load, power load, air conditioning load, lifts load, and bore wells, pumps, all that. So I'll not, these are the lux levels defined, office lighting, commercial lighting, road lighting. Client is shown with this photograph so that he will say, yeah, it is okay or not. So we have to document by showing all these aspects. Clean rooms also, sometimes we come across where we have to define the lighting. So power transformers, type of transformers, and all that. So home automation and integrated building management system, and EPA communication, solar panels, lightning protection, which is very important, security for the building, and earthing and plumbing services, and design intent, public health engineering. So we define water requirements and source of water following are to be examined. And so visiting population and treatment of water, recycling of the water, hydropneumatic system for pumping. Either you can go for gravity or hydropneumatic pressurized system. And piping requirements, because the design of pipes and joints depends on whether it is a gravity flow or pressurized system. And pump sets required and number of bore wells required are arrived at. And so now, scales of accommodation, authorized areas of the buildings for residential and office departments. So these are all defined by the authorized built-up area for CPWD personnel. So so this is to be modified. Of course, these are all old basic salaries and all defined. And what is the entitlement of office space for, so you can see here, entitlement of office space for different officers is given. And conference room, minimum 237 square feet and maximum 474 square feet. Ministerial staff of audit offices. And reception 120 square feet and a security room at every entrance. And caretaker room and CPWD maintenance staff rooms and stores, all these are defined. Drivers and servant quarters. So this is another defense personnel scales of accommodation. So officers, junior commanding officers and other ranks. They are all defined. Area for DU. This is defined in 139 square meters and balcony is 5 square meters. Servant quarter is 22 square meters. Total authorized area is 166 square meters. So like this, the scales of accommodations are defined, and we will take these scales of accommodation and major and other ranks, and we design. And similarly, the ministers like chief minister, what is the authorized space requirement and the common area and total space requirement. So we design based on these requirements for each minister, chief minister and chief secretary, secretariat office, and then HOD offices. So this is the total requirement given for a different requirements. So we have to consider all these spaces while planning. So this is the starting document. The scales of accommodation is the starting document for considering the planning of any facility. Whether it, similarly, a builder will come and say, I want to develop a affordable housing with a target cost of 40 lakh rupees per unit, 3-bedroom unit. So suppose, let us say the sale price there is 5,000 rupees per square feet. That means you have to plan 3-bedroom accommodation in 800 square feet. So this is a very tough thing. So we have to work on, then it becomes all small rooms, 9 feet by 7 feet kind of rooms, which we have to plan. So we have to work from the market feasibility. Always what I found is in real estate particularly, the developers have to fix the sale price, whether it is 2-bedroom, and there is a what you call the purchasing power of people in that area. For each location, there will be purchasing power. In one particular location, there will be 1 crore per unit, and one particular location, it may be 40 lakhs. So we have to do that study. How many units we are planning to develop, whether it is 1,000 units or 500 units for sale. And for that, what is the demand in that area in the coming 2-3 years, and then whether it can be absorbed or not at that price proposed. Based on that, we have to plan. So we will fix the per square feet cost, and in the per square feet cost, land cost we have to delete, and then in the remaining cost, like let us say 3,000 rupees, if it is available for the developer, in that how much he can spend per square feet for construction. Let us say 2,000 rupees. So what should be the specification? How much you can allot for flooring, how much you can allot for finishes, how much structure is fixed anyway. And that will vary with the number of floors, whether it is 5 floors or 15 floors, the cost of structure will vary. And spans, if it is a commercial building, spans will govern the cost of the structure. So like this, we have to decide the budget and then prepare the design brief for the finishes, for the structure, for the MEP, utilities and services, you know. So this is the thing. So we have to consider all the scales of accommodation or the demand for such areas. Suppose you have a very high-end market, like in Hyderabad, I'll take the example, Banjara Hills. If you want to develop 800 square feet 3-bedroom, nobody will buy it. If you say, even if you say 60 lakh rupees, it is very tough to sell such a product. And so we have to plan depending on the location, the size and budget. And based on the budget, we have to arrive at the specification. So this is the norm for arriving at the design brief, and we have to educate the client about the design intent. So GAD, General Administration Department, will be there in all the government departments. So we will be having all these requirements, and then housing, living room requirements, and how it looks, the living room. You know, that we have to actually plan. This is shown to the client to show what is the furniture. You cannot expect a middle class house to have 10-seater sofa sets. So we have to plan depending on the target customer, target market, you know. So we have to do the plan or select the plan and show it to the client whether this is okay requirement. And similarly, so this is another concept that you can show it to the client, living room, how it looks. And then bedroom designs. So bedroom, how much size you want to provide for the bedroom. So we have to take the latest concepts of the bedroom, and this is a very high-end bedroom, for example, and this is a starting bedroom. So the cost of construction depends on this sizing also and the design. So we have to plan considering the market and the demand and show it to the client. And we will be showing all these examples and take a tick, and so that our costing depends on the finishes targeted for this. Kitchen. So this is a kitchen. What type of kitchen you want to do, whether you want to do a affordable housing kitchen or a high-end kitchen. So here you can see the wooden finish here, and here it is Decalom finish. So, and what are all the facilities that you provide in the kitchen, all that we have to plan and design. And the sit-out area, how the sit-out should be looking, and what kind of target, again, whether it is a villa or apartment, based on that, we plan the sit-outs also. Next is the toilets and bathrooms. So the type of bathroom, you can make the difference for this bathroom and this bathroom, the cost difference. Normally in the budget, we take per toilet cost. Now the per toilet fixtures cost, the fixtures cost per toilet can be budgeted starting from 6,000 rupees per toilet to even 60,000 rupees per toilet. So whether you consider Italian fixtures or Indian fixtures, and in India itself we have the range starting from 6,000 rupees to even 60,000 rupees. So dry area and wet area to be decided and all that. So schedule of finishes, we have to prepare this kind of schedule of finishes, what kind of flooring and base for the flooring, how we fix the tiles and all the norms. And plastering, what kind of plasterings we do. This is all design intent. Based on design intent, design brief is prepared to this level. Every room, what will be the finish of the plaster, like if you have lime punning or POP or gypsum finish, then you need not go for double layer plaster. You can go for single layer rough finish and then go for putty on top of the plaster. So we define all these things. And dados, what will be the height of dado in the toilets and the kitchen, we have to decide, and also the type of fixing, whether it is adhesive or mortar fixing. So we have tile fixing adhesives now widely used, so that you can reduce the thickness of the fixing of the dados. And finishes, epoxy primer or steel structures. And so we have got some of the projects where we show to the client the finished look, and based on the plans, we will prepare the finishes and schedule of finishes for all of these facilities, both office and accommodation. So electrical requirements for each of this, and MEP services, firefighting, and see temperature also. Based on the temperature, some of the projects we did are in a minimum temperature of minus 30 degrees. So we have to plan for heating even. So yeah, in HVAC, now we should not think of only cooling or refrigeration. So we have to think of heating also. So we have to prepare the specification for heating, and so fire alarm systems and summer appliances and winter appliances. And these are the schedule of finishes, how we make for each of this. I'm not explaining for, but in the design brief itself, we have to prepare this schedule of finishes and schedule of drawings, and a specification for surface finishes we will be giving. And these are the some of the examples of CBD and demand assessment. It got mixed actually, the slides. Okay. So these are the options that are prepared for the, and the area statements for each of this. And this is the housing we planned, and in the housing also we prepare depending on the scales of accommodation, and layouts are prepared considering the site positions, various site positions, and schedule of finishes are also defined based on the scales of accommodation. So there is a eligibility for, it's not that for everyone we can provide what you call Italian marble or granite. So we have a eligibility for flooring and toilets. All the finishes we define the design brief based on the scales of accommodation. So these are all the requirements given. And external services, what is the power required, what is the transformer level we have to define, and water supply requirements, underground sumps and overhead tanks, and sewage disposal, type of disposal. We have to define. Many times the clients will start with saying that I just need a septic tank, but that's not acceptable to the pollution control norms. So we have to study the pollution control norms and define the water treatment, sewage treatment norms, and so propose the sewage treatment plant, whether it is a compact unit or a normal conventional sewage treatment system, and whether recycling is to be used, and whether it is a tertiary treatment to be followed, and all that. So this is the comparison we give it to the client, the authorized areas and provided areas. So here you can see we almost match the authorized area and the provided area. So sometimes we may not be able to fit the standard minimum norms in the authorized area. So we'll add the certain times minimum extra, which is permitted, 5% up to 10% is permitted. So these are all the, so this is the requirement given. We have designed the Andhra Pradesh Secretariat, the existing one, and there we had to design 6 lakh square feet. So we had to consider all the requirements as per the eligibility norms, and we have designed parking requirement, 40% of the total thing we have planned and provided. We have given the comparison. If we build 6 floors, what will happen? If we build 2 floors, what will happen? And we did the value engineering for all that. So Chief Secretary's space requirement. For example, 1800 square feet. Chief Secretary space is 750 square feet, and a conference room 600 square feet. VVIP's visitors room 900 square feet. General visitors room 750 square feet, and video conference hall 2000 square feet. Discussion room 600 square feet, and waiting room 500 square feet. And networking room 200 square feet. So total 8,500 square feet, and common area 2,000, total 10,000 square feet is what we have planned for a Chief Secretary requirements. So amenities of the Secretariat. So we have planned service associations, canteen, banks and hospital, post office, gym room, creche for employees, and cooperative credit society employees, and pay and accounts office, kindergarten, school. This is a requirement as per the norms actually. When you have more than 1,000 people working and women employees are there. And conference halls, 3 numbers, 6,000. So total amenities required are 30,000 square feet approximately. And common area is 7,000 and total 37,000 square feet. And this is the breakup details of various departments which are planned. So like this, we have to do so much of work considering all the requirements and plan the building, number of floors and all. So these are all the various departments. We consider all the, this is the data collected by discussion with each of the department people. And we consolidate all this data and plan the overall building. And so here we have got this 28,000 square meters or 3 lakh square feet total requirement, built up area. Gazetted officers and non-gazetted officers, HODs requirement, head of the departments and different HODs requirement. So the HODs itself has come to 6 million square feet total. So these are all the requirements collected. I'm not, this is only for brief. I'm showing these details and different irrigation and command area development, law officers and Panchayat Raj, revenue. These are so many departments will be there, HODs. And so this is the scales of accommodation. So I'll take now questions. In fact, I didn't want to explain more about this. So somebody is asking, Seshagiri, which is the most profitable format among the following for residential project? G+5, G+9, G+12 or G+20? This is a very good question, Seshagiri. Actually, normal, if you want to finish fast and the land cost is not very high, up to a land cost of, let us say, 2 to 3 crores per acre. If you have a land cost, then you can go for G+5 format. It is all land cost, you know, and also floor FAR permitted in that region. If FAR permitted is high, you can go for G+14. There are, I will tell you, 15 meters, 30 meters, 45 meters, 60 meters. These are the different breakups of the heights. Up to 15 meters, you don't have to go for fire norms. And cost of construction increases between 15 to 30 and 30 to 45, 45 to 60. Once you cross 60 meters, it becomes a very tall building. High-rise building up to, multi-storied building up to 30 meters, high-rise buildings up to 45 meters, and up to 60 meters, you don't, these are fire norms will say change between these breakup I am explaining. In the residential, we are talking about. So if you have a land cost exceeding 20 crores, let us say, per acre, you will go for G+20. This is to divide the land cost component in the sale price. So you have to study for each side what is the number of floors permitted, what is the area permitted. So we have 1.5 FAR, 1.25 FAR, we have 2 FAR. For example, in Telugu states, Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, there is no limit on FAR. So we can build any number of floors. So then it is the optimum. We have to do value engineering by considering all these floor heights. We have to arrive at the total cost and we have to decide the number of floors, considering the fire safety norm, considering the cost of construction, cost increase due to number of floors increase. Yeah, we have to design and submit the structural designs also for approval in the local bodies, urban local bodies. Vishu is asking whether we should have to do designs, structural and all, and get the before the approval. Yes, it is always good to submit all the designs so that there are no changes after the approval. What are the quadral provisions for design master plan? No, this is urban design requirement actually. So we have to follow the urban design norms. for master plan. But for market study and all, we will follow these market requirements. What is the open space to be allowed when one is developing a plot beyond 5 acres? 10% is the open space you have to leave for parks and recreation. 10%, this is from state to state, it will vary. You have to refer to the bylaws. Kaushik has asked. And how will be the changes on site replicated in the document and changes to the client? Yeah, actually, that's why it is better to do complete investigation before submitting the plan itself. You have to, designer has to visit the site, check the levels, check the boundaries, and submit the plan so that there are no changes after approval. What is the difference between design intent and design brief? Design intent is given by the client. That also actually project manager had to interact with the client and finalize the intent of the client. Based on the design intent, design brief is prepared by the consultants. Consultants will submit back brief to the client on what are the standards and how it looks like what I have shown. You have to show samples of how it looks and look and feel of the proposed design, and then take the approval for that. What is the built-up area development that can be done in an acre of plot as a thumb rule? Yeah, 1 lakh square feet you can yield. We call it yield actually. I can tell you about Telugu states because other states the bylaws will change. I cannot tell you off the hand, but in Telugu states, if you build G+5, you can achieve a yield of 1 lakh square feet. If you build G+7, you can get an yield of 1.225 lakh square feet. If you go for G+10 or 15, G+15, you can get an yield of 1.7 lakh square feet. So this is the yield. But some states you have the FAR restrictions. So when you have FAR restrictions, you can't get this yield. This PPT I don't want to share, but I'll try to edit and give it because some information is there which I'm not sure whether I can share or not. I'll check that and share this PPT, please. Can the client put their own view on design? I mean, as they want. Yeah, normally client is the ultimate decider, decision maker. If he wants elephant where only buffalo fits, we have to tell them it cannot fit. But we have to satisfy client's requirement. What about the selection of parking space, multi-level parking, parking plaza? Yeah, that's a very good question, Bharat Somaya. The parking requirements, for example, in Hyderabad, for IT buildings, we have to provide 66% parking. That means if I design 10 floors of office, 6.6 floors of parking I have to design. And so it is always in buildings, we go for multi-level only within the same building. If it is outside also, multi-level car park is my suggestion always. And what is the building line? Building line is the plinth line, you know, outside of the plinth, including the plaster thickness. So yeah, that is the building line we have to consider for setbacks. What is the difference between saleable area and built-up area? Built-up area is engineer's area, that is measurable, you know, the carpet area, then plinth area, and the built-up area. Built-up area means including corridors, every floor slab area. But saleable area is the builder's area. They will be loading the common areas, like parking, they are building 40%, they can't sell the parking, but it comes under common area, so you have to add load. So some builders add 20%, some builders add 30%, 40%, then plinth, actual plinth area of the flat plus 30% is the saleable area, for example, or 20%. Preparing the report itself, we need huge manpower. Yeah, that's correct actually. We have to, that's why all consultants have to estimate on the same platform. That's why I'm explaining all these requirements so that every consultant will be in the same plane. For residential project G+1 or above, what will be the range that we can charge per square feet to client? Fees you are asking. Yeah, fees normally the 3% for the design, 3% for the project management. That should be the reasonable fee actually. if we do every service that I'm explaining, including civil and structural planning or MEP and all that. And when we prepare a design, we have to check foreign codes also or not. Yes, normally as per the practice, any design that is not supported by local code or Indian code, we can refer to the relevant foreign codes. That is allowed. Per square feet fees means, actually I said 3%. So if the cost of construction is 1500 rupees, let us say, per square feet design fee is 45 rupees. Like that it comes. Percentage is always better because the cost of construction, what client considers, based on that, the fees also will come per square feet. But I have come across, when we prepare a design, we have to check foreign code. Yeah, how much future floors provision should be kept in design? Normally, in the structural design, we keep one extra floor than what is. Suppose we are asked to design G+5, we add one floor extra. What is the meant by goodwill amount? That is builder's language. Goodwill, actually, yeah, I'll explain technically what is goodwill collected by the landowners. Goodwill is the difference, like in joint development agreements, it happens, goodwill. Like Warner feels his land cost is, let us say, 5 crores. The builder is offering 4 crores by converting the land into developed area, saleable price. So 1 crore is the difference. So he has to pay 1 crore difference as a goodwill to the owner. That is goodwill. 3% of construction cost or 3% of sale. Construction cost only. Consultant has nothing to do with sale price. The project cost. How the road width affects on high rise above 30 meters. Yeah, in fact, normal building rules is you cannot construct more than double the height of the road width. That means if you have a 12-meter road, 40 feet, you can construct up to 80 feet. If you have a 20-meter road, you can construct up to 80 meters. So in Hyderabad and Telugu states, for example, if you have 100 feet road approachable, there is no height limit. But up to 100 feet road, double the height of width of the road you can construct. That is the norm. Up to what area of open space should be provided? I mean, is there any limit for which we should provide open space? No, actually, any development, if you cover the entire area with buildings, there should be some recreation space, some lung space for the development. So, parks, there are the open spaces defined are amenities, utilities, and recreation. So, above 5 acres, you have to go for 10% open space and 3% amenities and 3% utilities you have to provide. What is the tot lot area? Is it compulsory? Yeah, tot lot is for children's play area. Nowadays, I don't know how many of you are young here. I am sure you don't find space to play. In our childhood, we used to play a lot. But nowadays, it is difficult to find a play area for children. So, tot lot is a children's play area because children can't go far distances. So, within the apartments itself, you should create a children's play area. That is tot lot. And in national highway, setback is 75 meters. Should we construct building in that area? Yeah, that is, it will be really not viable actually. How many times can we make changes in design? Yeah, you should tell the client if the client, that's what. Once you take the approval of design intent, that's why I always say, you take the approval of design intent, you take the approval of design brief, then if a client makes any change, you charge for it. Otherwise, we should not allow client to change, keep changing. Yeah, provision for BMS is required whenever you have multi-tenant requirement. That means for billing, whether it is power, air conditioning, and all that, BMS will help for billing. Came to know as recent quarter provisions, can we have floating columns? No, as a structural engineer, we should never permit floating columns or transfer columns. Never. It is not it is not encouraged, but still, if it is very essential, convinced by the consultant, then we should design. The code cannot ban it, but code gives a precaution. Don't do it. Don't use floating columns or transfer columns, transfer gutter. Design consultant and architecture fee depends on the total amount of the project, or as they will fix it. Actually, you have to fix the fee. Consultant should decide his fee, not client. We know what is the amount of effort required, so we all should stick to the same norms, all consultants. From what number of floors should we provide the fire brigade width in ground floor? Yeah, once we cross 15 meters, any building height exceeding 15 meters, excluding parking floors, 15 meters if building height exceeds, then you have to provide minimum 6 meters setback for the building. Service floors for air conditioning, plumbing, sewage lines should be planned for proper serviceability and maintenance. Yeah, that's right. In fact, service floor is a mandatory once your height of the building number of floors exceed 20. So every 20 floors we have to provide one service floor. That is for the efficient and effective working of these elevators, water supply, firefighting, and air conditioning also. Service floor is a requirement. Good question, Bharat. So, are there any questions from Satyavani? Which type of slab is economical for basements? Basements, it is slab. Always I tell you, economical, how do you define economy? If the span is fixed because of parking requirement, like 8 meters, you should go for post-tension slabs. And the slab and beam is, I always recommend slab and beam. But if there is a height restriction, we should go for flat slab. And depending on the span, depending on the requirements, economy changes actually. Any questions from our team, SV team?
Sir, can I talk, sir?
Yeah.
Sir, I want to utilize maximum play space after second floor. Is it I can utilize more than 5%? Actually, usually we will leave the 10%. Second floor, sir.
Come again, Sridhar. Yeah, actually, in Telugu states again, there is a 2 meter projection allowed beyond ground plus 1 floors. After 2 floors, you can have 2 meter projection, and 50% balconies are permitted above 6 meters height of the building. So you can do it. And deviation other than high-rise buildings, you are permitted up to 10% maximum. And you can have facade requirements in 0.6 meters incorporated. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Mute. And soak pits are banned for septic tank. What is the solution? Yeah, nowadays we should not provide septic tanks because it will contaminate the soil. So always better recommend as an engineer sewage treatment plant only, or connection to sewage treatment plant. Uploaded the previous lectures. It is in the box drive in Facebook page, Smart and Fresh. Take webinar on all types of slabs. You please refer to my RCC design class.
Sir.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shall I ask?
Yeah, ask.
This is regarding STP.
Okay.
Because of the space constraint, so many builders are constructing below the in the cellars.
Mm.
Later on, it is giving a lot of troubles to maintenance as well as the other problems. Is there any special clause to avoid those things?
No, there is no, I mean, bylaws won't prevent anybody doing STP in the cellar. So we mainly, which type of maintenance issues you are facing? Is it height, or is it the space, or is it the
Actually, this-
ventilation?
Yeah, ventilation, sir.
Ventilation, yeah, that's, in fact, yeah, it's a good question from Subramaniam. People are constructing STPs in the basements, and you know, any basement, we have to design proper ventilation system. It is part of HVAC. So in the design brief, you should include the ventilation norms for the STP area. Better confine the STP area and provide the number of air changes required for that. Then definitely it will not create problem. Bylaw should not prevent. Actually, it is a failure on part of the designers, I would say, wherever you find the problem.
Sir, this is one thing, and this tot lot also is the other issue.
Yeah, what is the issue?
Our people, actually, there is no clause from no restriction from the bylaws, but because of the space constraint, our people are arranging in different areas.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, as you said, they are not getting total area.
Correct.
At one slot.
It's a good question, actually, Subramanian. Again, consultants as professionals, I mean, builders always want maximum yield for their land, you know, and they want to show all the odd spaces. There are restrictions, actually. You should have minimum 10 feet dimension for the tot lot area, and you should have minimum area of tot lot this much. We should follow those norms. And it is always good to provide entire tot lot in one place, actually, as you said. We should, as a designer, we should always encourage that, I feel. That is good suggestion, Subramanian.
The other one is the parking, sir. Always we are facing problem in the parking after finalization of the columns.
Yeah.
Always.
Every structural engineer has.
Presently, I'm facing problem right now, after 6 months.
Yeah,
project.
I know about it. So, the client is supposed to define the parking requirement, number one, and column spacing and column size affects the number of car parks, definitely, driveways and all. So before even plan is submitted for approval, we should agree and sign off the drawing with the client so that there are no changes after permission.
Sir, problem is not that one, sir, that we are doing like that, but what is happening after finalization of the columns and architecture planning, these MEP services are entering after that. That is the problem. Then ducts are intervening, electrical rooms, big STPs, EG rooms, all those things giving problem for the parking.
Yeah, that's right.
Nobody is taking care about the services during the planning.
In the before submission.
Yeah. Before finalization of the parking, at least.
Correct.
But later on, everybody is forcing on structural engineers only.
That is why I am saying this design intent and design brief are very important before even we start designing. We should sign off this design intent and design brief so that the areas are frozen for services, parking and other utilities and recreation and all that. And then only you plan the building so that there are no changes after submission.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Good question, Subramanian. And I hope people are listening in Facebook also, these questions when you are asking in Zoom.
That Bhaskar has to tell.
The Bhaskar, somebody in Facebook should write. Wind direction drawings, light direction drawings are reference for the consultants, or else should we submit it to the client? No, it is for the consultant only. And we should explain to the client, windrows drawing.
Wind path.
Windrows. Wind direction, and light direction also.
Yes.
Green building webinar is there actually. You can see the list of our topics. I am going to talk about sustainable green buildings actually. structure and transverse girder will come under floating column. Yeah, that is correct. In high-rise buildings, the basement will be filled with water after rain. Is there any other way to drain?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to pump out actually. It is very important. We have to design the proper drainage in the basements. And automatic sensor connected pumps should be there to drain out the water. Yeah, thank you, Tamil Selvan. You are there always. Thank you very much. Oh, thank you, Rangasatam. I think we'll conclude now. I have another lecture at 10 o'clock for FDP CBIT. So thank you all. I am closing the session, and have a good day. See you all. Have a safe day.